What if everything you've been told about losing your love handles is completely wrong, and the real fix takes less than 60 seconds after every meal? Thomas got rid of his in 8 weeks. Gary did the same in 8 weeks. And Michael, at 52 years old, finally stripped the fat off his midsection for the very first time in his life. None of them did a single side plank. Not one oblique twist. Not a single crunch. Because here's something nobody wants to admit about ab workouts. You cannot crunch your way out of love handles. Those exercises build muscle underneath the fat, which means the more you do them, the more square and blocky you actually look while the fat just sits there on top, untouched. I know that sounds harsh, but honestly, it's the most liberating thing I can tell you today, because it means your struggle was never about willpower or discipline. It comes down to 2 hormones nobody talks about, and there's a reason those 2 areas on your sides start expanding as you get older. Today I'm handing you the exact protocol I've used, the one my team and I have used with our clients, the same one that helped me personally lose my love, handles 5 separate times. It comes down to 3 specific actions that target those 2 hormones directly. Stick with me, because there's something you can do in under 60 seconds after every meal that hits the #1 driver behind love handles, and almost nobody is doing it. At the end, I'll also hand you a full sample day you can copy exactly. Quick introduction in case you don't know me. I'm Dr. Michael Diamonds, a medical doctor and a scientist with a background in biochemistry and microbiology. I'm also a natural pro bodybuilder and the founder of Sculpt by Science. My team and I work with people facing this exact problem every single day, and I've been doing this work for 11 years now, so I know this territory well. Let's skip the fluff and get straight into it. So why are your love handles actually there in the first place? Before I give you the protocol, there's one thing you need to understand, because once it clicks, everything else will make sense. That stubborn fat you can grab on the sides of your waist isn't there by accident. Fat doesn't randomly decide to camp out at your midsection. It's parked there because 2 specific hormones are essentially standing guard, giving the order for it to stay put. The first is cortisol, your stress hormone. Here's what almost nobody explains about it properly. When cortisol runs high, your body shifts into survival mode, a fight or flight response wired into us for thousands of years. That ancient programming has one instruction: grab onto energy and store it somewhere, central where it can be accessed fast, especially if danger shows up. That somewhere is your midsection. Picture cortisol as an overprotective security guard, sprinting around your body, grabbing fat, and locking it away in a storage unit, which happens to be your waistline. The more often your cortisol spikes, the more fat gets shoved into that storage unit. And the frustrating part is that as long as you keep doing the things causing those spikes, you never get the key back. The second hormone is insulin. Every time you eat carbohydrates, your body releases insulin to shuttle the sugar that results from digestion somewhere useful, usually your muscles, your liver, or your brain, where it becomes fuel. When insulin is working properly, this happens smoothly and there's no issue at all. To be clear, carbs and insulin themselves aren't the villains here. But when your cells stop responding properly to insulin's signal, that sugar has nowhere productive to go. So your body defaults to the only backup plan it knows, storing that sugar as fat, specifically along your flanks and lower belly. And here's the part that quietly traps people without them ever realizing it. These 2 hormones feed off each other in a loop. High cortisol worsens insulin resistance, and insulin resistance keeps cortisol elevated. Round and round it goes, while your love handles sit there completely untouched, no matter how hard you try to get rid of them. So here's how we're going to break that cycle, and we're going to attack it from 3 different directions at once. Pivoted towards subsequent section. Pivoted towards subsequent section. The second drink I recommend is matcha. Matcha is essentially green tea, but far more concentrated, because you're consuming the entire tea leaf itself rather than just steeping it briefly and discarding it. Matcha is packed with a group of compounds called catechins, and the standout among them is a specific one called EGCG, which your body puts to real use. You might be wondering exactly what EGCG does. It's a natural fat-burning compound that nudges your body to actually tap into that stubborn stored fat. I want you drinking your matcha clean, no milk, no sugar added, because mixing in either one significantly blunts the benefits. Drink it black, and if the grassy flavor is a bit much for you at first, a small squeeze of lemon can help balance it out. Aim for 1 to 2 cups of matcha per day. That brings us to hack number 3, what I call the PFC system. And honestly, this is how you should be structuring every meal for the rest of your life. This particular strategy targets the food side of the entire equation, and it's especially powerful if you're dealing with insulin resistance or prediabetes. PFC stands for protein first, fiber second, carbs last, and that order, protein, fiber, carbs, should become how you approach eating at every single meal from now on. When you eat carbs first, or eat them on their own, they break down quickly into glucose, which floods your bloodstream and forces a hard insulin spike, sending that fat storage signal straight to your midsection. But when you eat protein first instead, something genuinely beneficial happens. Your gut releases a hormone called GLP-1, a name you've probably heard before. GLP-1 slows down how quickly food leaves your stomach, so instead of everything flooding in at once, it trickles in gradually and steadily. That name might ring a bell because GLP-1 is the exact hormone that popular weight loss medications are designed to mimic. Here, you're getting the natural version of that same hormone completely free, simply by eating your chicken before you touch your rice. I'm not telling anyone to go buy medication or deal with prescription side effects just to reorder how you eat. The second step is eating your fiber next. Fiber creates a kind of physical mesh inside your gut that further slows down how quickly carbs get absorbed. So by the time carbohydrates finally arrive, there's essentially a speed bump or filtration layer already in place, and your insulin doesn't have to spike nearly as hard in response. This isn't just theory either, there's solid research behind it. Cornell Medical published a study in the journal Diabetes Care, where researchers had pre-diabetic participants eat the exact same meal with the exact same calorie count, but in a different order. When people ate their protein and vegetables before their carbs, their post-meal blood sugar spike dropped by 29% within the first 30 minutes after eating. Even more striking, after a full hour, that blood sugar spike had dropped by 37%, all from simply changing the order of eating. Nothing else. That's what makes this approach so practical. You can apply it at a restaurant by eating your protein and salad before reaching for the bread basket. At home, plate your protein and vegetables first and save the rice or pasta for last. Even at a big family dinner, the same rule applies. No calorie counting, no cutting anything out entirely, just paying attention to the sequence in which you eat. Protein first, fiber second, carbs last, every single time. Now I want you to take a screenshot of this entire protocol so you can reference it easily. 10 air squats after every meal. And once that becomes manageable, aim for 10 air squats every hour throughout your day. Morning sunlight within the first 10 minutes of waking up. Protein within 30 minutes of starting your day, particularly important for women who aren't practicing intermittent fasting. A tablespoon of apple cider vinegar mixed into water before meals. 1 to 2 cups of matcha daily. And eating your protein first, your fiber second, and your carbs last, in that exact order. Let me know in the comments which one of these 3 strategies you're planning to start using right away. I genuinely want to know which one resonates with you most. Now let's walk through the exact sample day. I promised you, the same one I personally follow and use with my own routine. This is how I'd put all 3 hacks together into one seamless day. And I want you to see just how simple and unglamorous it actually is, because that's the whole point. None of this requires special equipment, expensive supplements, or hours of extra time carved out of your schedule. The moment I wake up, I get outside within the first 5 minutes. I mentioned this earlier, but it bears repeating. I always have my clothes and shoes laid out and ready the night before, so there's no excuse and no delay standing between me and that morning sunlight. If stepping outside genuinely isn't possible for you, standing on a balcony or right at a window with natural light, hitting your face works just as well. 10 to 15 minutes of that exposure is ideal, but even a few minutes makes a real difference in signaling your body clock that the day has begun. If you're not practicing intermittent fasting, this is the point where I'd have a high-protein meal, ideally within the first 30 minutes to an hour of waking. That could be a couple of boiled eggs, a protein shake, or boiled eggs paired with Greek yogurt, whatever fits your routine and your taste. Remember, this early protein is doing real work behind the scenes, telling your body that food is available, and there's no need to keep pumping out stress hormones in response to low blood sugar. Then comes the part that trips people up the most in the beginning, delaying that first cup of coffee by 60 to 90 minutes after waking. I'll be honest with you, this feels genuinely difficult at first, especially if you're used to reaching for coffee the second you're upright. But I promise you, once your body adjusts to this new rhythm, the benefits become obvious, and you'll still get the same energizing effect from your coffee, just without stacking it directly on top of your natural cortisol spike. Mid-morning is when I have my first cup of matcha for the day. Clean, no milk, no sugar, just the tea itself, possibly with a touch of lemon if the flavor needs balancing. When lunchtime rolls around, I follow the PFC order every time. I eat my protein first, working through at least half of that portion before moving on to my vegetables or salad, eating at least half of those as well. Once I've established that foundation, protein and fiber both largely consumed, I can eat the rest of the meal in whatever order feels natural because the two protective layers are already in place doing their job. And this is the part I really want you to lock in as a non-negotiable habit. After every single meal, do your 10 air squats. If you're able to manage it, try turning this into a genuine challenge for yourself. 10 air squats every single hour from the moment you wake up until you go to sleep. It sounds small, almost too small to matter, but that's exactly why it works so consistently for people who actually stick with it. By midday, I'll have my last cup of matcha for the day. Before every meal where it's practical, I also have that tablespoon of apple cider vinegar mixed with water, sometimes with a bit of lemon added in for flavor. This becomes a simple, repeatable ritual rather than something you have to think hard about each time. For dinner, I follow that exact same PFC order, protein first, fiber second, carbs last, and I'll often have my apple cider vinegar alongside that meal as well. And to close out the day, another quick set of 10 air squats before winding down for the evening. That's genuinely the entire day, start to finish. Nothing complicated, nothing expensive, and nothing that requires you to overhaul your entire lifestyle overnight. Every single piece of this protocol is deliberately designed to pull on both of those hormones we talked about, cortisol and insulin, working together rather than against each other for once. I've laid out this entire sample day on the screen, so you can screenshot it and keep it as a reference for whenever you need a reminder of what to do and when to do it. What makes this approach genuinely different from most fat loss advice out there is that it isn't asking you to punish yourself with extreme workouts, cut out entire food groups, or spend money on expensive programs and supplements. It's asking you to understand what's actually driving that stubborn fat around your midsection, cortisol and insulin working in a vicious cycle against each other, and then make small, deliberate adjustments that interrupt that cycle at exactly the right moments throughout your day. 10 air squats after a meal takes less time than it took you to read this sentence. Stepping outside for 5 minutes, the moment you wake up costs you nothing but a slightly earlier start. Delaying your coffee by an hour or so is genuinely just a matter of habit and patience. Reordering how you eat your meals doesn't require you to eat less or spend more, just to think slightly differently about sequence. None of these changes demand willpower in the traditional sense, which is exactly why they tend to stick where harsher, more restrictive approaches usually fail. I want to be clear about something, because I think it matters. This protocol isn't a magic trick, and it isn't going to erase decades of habits overnight. But it is grounded in real physiology, real hormonal mechanisms, and real published research, not guesswork or trends that fade in a few months. Thomas, Gary, and Michael didn't succeed because they found some secret shortcut nobody else knows about. They succeeded because they stopped fighting their body with crunches and cardio alone, and instead started working with the actual biological systems driving fat storage in the first place. That distinction matters enormously because so many people spend years frustrated, doing everything they think they're supposed to do, and still seeing that stubborn fat sitting there unchanged. If that's been your experience, I want you to walk away from this video understanding that it was never a matter of discipline or effort. It was a matter of not knowing which levers actually move the needle. So here's what I'd like you to do next. Pick one thing from everything we covered today, just one, and commit to starting it tomorrow morning. Maybe it's getting outside within 10 minutes of waking. Maybe it's doing 10 air squats after your next meal. Maybe it's simply reordering your plate so protein comes first. Whatever you choose, start there, build the habit, and then layer in the next piece once that first one feels automatic. That's genuinely how lasting change happens, not through overhauling everything at once, but through small, consistent shifts that compound over weeks and months. If this video changed the way you think about fat loss and love handles specifically, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this information reach more people who are stuck exactly where you might have been. Drop a comment letting me know which of these 3 hacks you're going to try first. I read every single one, and your feedback directly shapes what I cover in future videos. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because I'll keep breaking down the real science behind fat loss, hormones, and long-term health. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just what actually works. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, especially on the days you don't feel like it. I'll see you in the next one.